would just like to point out one thing in doing stuff like this. There's nothing more important than safety. And if you aren't going to be safe, then just don't do it. And whenever you're welding, you want to use the proper welding mask and using a blowtorch and stuff. You always want to have a fire extinguisher within reach and all of the safety stuff. And if you don't have the proper safety supplies, just don't do it. And it's that simple. And something to point out when you're watching this video, it took me about 7 hours to complete this project. And so keep in mind that it's going to take a lot longer than it actually shows in the video, just from editing and stuff like that. And I'm sorry I didn't get a lot of stuff in the video, but my camera card actually got full and I didn't have a spare one with me, so that was a challenge. Anyways, I hope this video will help you, and thanks for watching. So this is the stuff you're going to need to do this. This is a pad off of a later model Ford truck. You know, the same thing, it just goes right under the back window to give it more padding. And it's off of a 95 Ford extended cab pickup. And we picked this one up at a wrecking yard for 40 bucks. And then you're going to need some steel. You're going to use scrap steel. I bought this at a store for 15 bucks, and so this is what you're going to need essentially. And you are going to need some nuts and bolts too. 4 more nuts and bolts. But I will get to that. Sorry, I forgot to make a note of this, but this is how we're holding up the back seat. We just got an old engine stand, and we cut it up into 3 5-inch sections for the backs of the back seat. So this is a video on how to raise up the back seat on a 1988 Ford F-250, but it would apply for like a F-150 or an F-350, I'm sure. And I don't know if you're watching this video, you probably know how low it is. It's like just sitting on the ground. So there are 2 bolts right down here. Maybe. Yeah, then they're 13 millimeter. Sorry for all the shakiness, but, you know, awkward filming positions. I lost my socket. You know, you don't need a fancy tool like this to do this. Sure does make it easier. Okay, so after you remove all of the 4 bolts of each side, you're just going to pull out the seat. Yep, that's how it comes out. So just pull the seat out the passenger side, since that's the only way it will come out. So now what you're going to do is measure this piece right here, and it looks like it is, we're going to go 5 inches just to be on the safe side, and you are going to cut that out of your piece of steel that you bought, or your scrap steel, whatever. You're going to mark Sharpie or soapstone or something right there, 5 inches. Then you're going to cut it. So this is how I'm going to mark it. It measured we needed 5-inch pieces. I'm just going to go So now that we have our steel marked, we are going to need to cut it. By the way, this metal is 1.5 inches wide. I forgot to mention that earlier. And this is my first time using a torch, so... So now, before you touch anything, you want to cool it down. That's been sitting there for probably about 3 minutes, and that's how hot it was still. So these were the goggles I was using when I was doing that, and I don't know if you could see them when I showed them to you earlier, but I was using proper safety equipment. And also to make these cuts, you could use a die grinder with a cutting wheel on it, you know, maybe a hacksaw if you had enough time and strength. You know, you don't need a torch to make these cuts. You can make do with what you have. So here's the grinder I'm going to be using, and you know, like I said before, you don't have to have all of the tools that I'm using in this. You could have a Dremel maybe, or a belt sander, and you could just flip it over and put a rough grit on there or something. You know, you don't have to have all of these tools to do this project. And if you use a die grinder to cut these pieces, you won't even have to sand it. So.